I have a pleasant surprise for everybody here. Take a look at this. Steve Bannon pushing for 44% marginal tax rate on the very rich. What? What on earth? What is this? All right, let's see. Top White House advisor Steve Bannon is pushing for tax reform to include a new 44% top marginal tax rate, hitting people who earn more than $5 million a year, with the revenue paying for tax cuts for the rest, according to 3 people who've spoken to him recently. The top rate is now 39.6%, and most Republicans have been planning to lower it significantly as part of tax reform. The plan Trump put out previously would have only 3 brackets, with the top one brought down to 35%. Okay. Now, this means that just like on trade issues, you have one person in the Trump administration who's going, yeah, let's not be total and complete douchebags. So Steve Bannon, for those of you who don't know, on social issues, he's as bad as it gets. I mean, he's almost openly racist. Like, what's the name of that book again? There's this book that he apparently loves, and it's like a neo-Nazi book. They talk about how the immigrants are coming and they're destroying Europe, and the person who's the evil character is this immigrant who literally eats feces, and it's like marauding brown people who are coming for the good angelic people of Europe or whatever. I don't remember the name right now, but it might hit me at some point. But it's not just that. Let's be clear. It's not just that he likes that incredibly shitty book. It's that March of the Saints. Is that what it's called? I don't fucking know. Yeah, I don't know. If I remember, I'll put it at the bottom of the screen or something. It's also just his policies. I mean, everybody knows Steve Bannon is the guy who, in a conversation with Trump, he said, Trump said, oh yeah, high-skilled immigrants? Oh, well, of course we should have high-skilled immigrants. I mean, if they're high-skilled and they're doing work and it's like really productive work, why wouldn't you want high-skilled immigrants? And then Steve Bannon, this was back during the campaign, early on in the campaign, Steve Bannon, I guess, was doing a radio show or something for Breitbart. And he said, well, look, it's not just about like productivity and work. It's you're creating a civilization. You're creating a society. And do we really want these kinds of people in here? So in other words, hey, dude, they're brown. I don't like brown people. Have I made that clear? That's Steve Bannon. That's his position. So he's bad in so many ways. But there's a few issues, economic issues, where he bucks the trend. And he's kind of like an old school Pat Buchanan type character. Pat Buchanan, obviously pretty openly racist as well. But he was one of the guys who's like, don't do NAFTA. Don't fucking do NAFTA. If you do NAFTA, we're going to lose a lot of decent paying American jobs. It's going to be horrible. And, you know, it's going to be a race to the bottom in terms of wages in this country. We're going to make ourselves poorer. We're going to destroy the middle class. He says the same thing. Bannon says the same thing about trade. He wants to bring back tariffs. He wants to make sure we keep jobs here. Now, so on that narrow area, he agrees with progressives. There's another area where he agrees with progressives. Now, admittedly, progressives probably want to go higher for that top marginal rate. But the fact that somebody in the Trump administration is talking about trying to raise the top marginal rate, woo, that's wild. I did not see that coming. So, as they said, right now the top rate is 39.6%. He wants to push it to 44% on the top marginal bracket. And that's for people making $5 million a year or more. That would raise $180 billion in revenue over 10 years, which is nothing to scoff at right there. But here's my prediction. It ain't going to happen. Here's why it's not going to happen. Trump isn't going to listen to him. And the reason why he's not going to listen to him is he's got 37 other people in the administration pulling him in the other direction. It's actually the same thing. It's the same thing with Bannon on foreign policy. Bannon is a non-interventionist on foreign policy. He doesn't agree with the neocons. He thinks they're globalists and, you know, they want to invade everywhere, topple every government, run the world, have an empire, but we crumble here at home while that happens. So Bannon was pushing, no, don't go into Syria. Don't escalate the wars. And Trump's like, yeah, brush you aside. I'm going to listen to the generals, and I'm going to listen to the neocons in the deep state who say we should escalate in Syria, we should escalate in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we should get more entangled all around the world. So Bannon didn't win on foreign policy, and I don't think Bannon's going to win on this either. He didn't even win on TPP, because even though Trump said no TPP, now with the renegotiation of NAFTA that's going on, he's slipping in provisions from the TPP into the new NAFTA that they're working on. So I don't think Bannon's going to win this fight behind the scenes. I think Gary Cohn, Goldman Sachs guy, Steve Mnuchin, Goldman Sachs guy. So you got the Treasury Secretary is Mnuchin, top economic advisor is Gary Cohn. You have multiple Goldman Sachs guys there who all they want to do is cut taxes on the rich. That's the whole point of them being there. And then furthermore, let's say for a second Bannon did win on this front, which is not going to happen. If Bannon won on that front, they would just make up for it in a different way, cut taxes for the rich in a different way. So, for example, they could do repatriation, allow trillions of dollars that corporations have shoved overseas to avoid taxes, allow that back into the country, and cut their tax rate gigantically to get them to bring it back in the country. Say, okay, we know you're supposed to pay 35% on that, but what if you only pay 7%? So that's another thing they could do. They could just cut the corporate tax rate, which I think even Bannon is in favor of, but obviously the rest of Trump's team is in favor of, which is mental because right now corporations pay a historically low burden, a low percentage of the tax burden. So that's all shifted onto the middle class. So they say, oh yeah, we're trying to do tax relief for the middle class. I guarantee you that when you look into the details at the end of it, that's not the case. In fact, the tax plan that Trump already proposed, when you break down the numbers on that, it gives people making about $30,000 and less, which is over half the country, by the way, it gives them $40 more a year in a tax cut. For the rich, I think it's the top 1%, they all get, or top maybe 0.01% or so, they all get $940,000 more every year. So it's a ruse. It's really a tax cut geared specifically for the rich. So it's good that Bannon's pushing for these things behind the scenes. And I think Breitbart gave this favorable coverage too, the 44% tax rate on the rich. But I don't think he's going to win out because he's the only one that's arguing for that. And everybody else is saying, oh, no, Mr. President, it's going to hurt the economy. You're going to lose jobs. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And most importantly, you'd never be able to get that through Congress and the Senate. There's no way, ever, that House Republicans and Senate Republicans would say, yeah, let's raise taxes on the rich. So it's nice he's pushing for it, but it ain't going to happen.